And then this is not the way it swims in the sea. Obviously the skin has already been taken off. I've asked my fishmonger to take off the skin. I would recommend you to do the same. If it does come with the skin on, it's no big deal. We would basically take our fish, we'll make a small incision at the bottom where the skin starts. Once it's trimmed on the edges, you can literally pull the skin up and it will become perfect and clean like this. But this one is already prepared, and what we're going to start with is chopping off the head. We want to make sure that we don't cut off any of that beautiful flesh. So the head runs here, and we're going to cut it in at an angle right through the bones and put it on the side. Now we're going to have lots of fins going here on the side that we want to remove. And if there's any impurities in the cavity, we'll take them out as well. With the kitchen scissors, it's going to be really easy to trim this over. And we want to cut off quite a bit. Because right here, you can see where the fillets run. All the way along the edge here, that's where we want to trim it. Because once it's been cooked in the pan, it's going to be really easy to take the fillets off. There will be nothing on the side, and it's going to be easier to serve. So with our scissors, we're going to start at the tail end, and we are going to cut our way up to the top. And there you can see, it's exactly on the line where the edible fillets start, and that's where we want to be. We do the same on the other side. Cut it on the inside where the cavity is. And that's it. Gonna want to remove any bits of blood or the livers. And we can rinse that out a little bit. Because if blood comes in the pan, it will become black and leave ugly spots on the fish. We want to prevent that from happening by rinsing out and trimming the fish correctly. Keeping it nice and clean. That is absolutely lovely. And see if there's anything else on this fish that we need to clean up or tidy up. There's a little bit of tissue on the side we don't need. There's little bits of skin that might have stuck on. We can remove these by gently scraping. But altogether, that's a beautifully looking Dover sole. And then we're going to put this on a tray. We're going to need a really nice, large, non-stick pan for this preparation. We want to cook the fish in a little bit of oil till it's really nice and brown. So that's caramelization, start to bring out all the aromas of the flesh. Then we're going to add a little bit of butter, roast it all over on both sides. We're going to prepare our Dover sole by topping it with a bit of oil. Both sides, well coated. We're going to coat the Dover sole nicely with oil, and then we're going to season it with just some salt. We don't use pepper yet because in the pan it will burn and we're going to leave dark spots and you won't get the nice aroma. We'll finish the Dover sole with a crunch of black pepper so you can get all that aroma and all the flavor to its full extent. We're going to heat up the pan so we can put our Dover sole in and we can start the frying process. So this Dover sole is going to take about 10 to 12 minutes to cook. So we're going to start by heating up the pan and we're going to very gently start with cooking the fish. It's incredibly important that you do this right. With anything that we cook, with anything that we season, we want to be really precise. We want to make sure that the same amount of salt is falling on every single bit. But also think the flesh on this side, on the top end, is much thicker, so it's going to need a little extra seasoning. The tail bit here is going to get salty really quick, so be very careful when you season there and be mindful when you take your product. Understand where that seasoning is going and how much it's going to have to season in the end. We're going to need good heat in the pan, but not too much. We don't want to burn the Dover sole, we want to cook it. We want to get a nice caramelization on the outside, but we don't want to shrink it too much. It's really about heat management here. We have a bit of oil in there, not too much. We have a non-stick pan, which is important for this preparation. There's no skin on this fish. We don't want any of the flesh to stick to the pan. And that's what we want to hear. We want to hear a little bit of a sizzle because we're frying. We want to make the caramelization go. Give it a little stir. Move it a bit to make sure that it doesn't dry out. Now these are big fish and they're quite long. So if they don't fit well in the pan, we need to be a little bit clever. Two sides of the fish. One is really thick, one is really thin. So we're going to push the thick side of the fish into the pan, and the tail can come out a little bit. It doesn't require a lot of cooking, the tail, so it's no problem that it doesn't have the same touching. Now when we're cooking this, we kind of want to stay on top. There's a lot going on here in the pan. There's beautiful heat. We're going to have to turn it over well in time, and then we're going to have to introduce our butter. If the pan is a bit dry, we can add a little drop of oil. This helps with the flesh to make good contact with the pan and get a real nice even cook. In the meantime, we can see where we're at. You can see how far this fish is. Lifting it up gently. Now preferably we touch the fish the least we can possibly can, but we're gonna have to get a sear on one end, a sear on the other, and then we add the butter and we'll have another turn. So all sides have been coated and in the butter and in the oil. That is gonna make a real nice crispy layer, but also make sure that the flavors are everywhere. There you can see that looks really, really beautiful. There's a beautiful caramelization on the top. You can see that it is nicely colored. We have lots of flavor in there to add the butter to the fish. We want a good scoop because it's going to be part of our sauce. This is what's going to make the emulsion. This is what's going to tie all these flavors together and make it a delicious sauce. Now very important, we want to prevent this fish from drying out. Now this whole side here is exposed. And to make sure it doesn't dry out, we want to baste the flesh a little bit. We want to take the butter and spoon it over. It's a beautiful technique that really brings out all the flavors, but also prevents the meat from drying out. It's going to go in between the crevices. It's going to be really delicious. We want to see that butter brown a little bit on the edges. That's where all the flavor comes in. That's where the aromas come. That's where you can start to smell really, really great smells here. Now we see our nuts are cooking. We're going to turn down the heat. We'll leave it on the side. We'll stay a little bit longer with the fish because we don't want to waste this moment and burn the butter or the fish. So we're going to stay with it. Now we're going to give it one more turn. And with your two prongs, we're going to sit in between the layers with a gentle swoosh to swap it around. Occasionally it can stick a little bit. That doesn't really matter. That is fine. We do want to keep these bits because they're really delicious, they're really yummy. Basting that beautiful aromatic butter. Confident that this is it. Now use a small palette knife, you can use a regular knife, you can use a spoon. But we want to make a small incision on the top, exactly in the middle. Feel coming all the way down to the bone. And then see if those fillets come off yet. And we want to have it just cooked. We don't want it overcooked, so it can have a little bit of resistance. And this one is perfect. Need a little push, but then it falls off the bone. That is exactly the kind of cook that I am after. I'm going to free it up a little bit at the tail. I want to be very careful. Try not to break any of the fillets. Gently push it off the bones. As you see, the bones are completely clean. There's no fish on it left. It's cooked all the way through, but just about. And that is that perfection. That is that point where the fish is most delicious, most succulent. And absolutely perfectly cooked. Struggles a bit to get off the bone there. Just have to be gentle. Take your time with this. Don't rush it. You don't want to break the fillets. Just want to give it a gentle push until it lets go. And there we go. Fillet number 1.